remember and learn from the mistakes that were made 10 years ago.
Had that not happened, I don't think the ANA would ever have been driven to publish their transparency report and those kind of things. Hello from New York.
Greetings from London.
So today we are talking about a scary thing, which is potentially how you're going to manage your media budget in a coming recession. So if you've been keeping an eye on the headlines in the last few weeks, you can see there's storm clouds or headwinds gathering in different economies around the world. And so it's given us an opportunity to look back 10 years and actually what happened to the media management 10 years ago at the depths of a very big recession in 2008. If you haven't yet subscribed to Media Snack, please click down below and subscribe. And if you click the little bell, you'll get alerted to every upcoming episode. So mate, what is going on?
So managing media in a recession, challenging at any time. And we kind of speak from experience to a degree because we launched Addycoms at the beginning of the last really big recession, 2008 and 2009. And we noticed some really significant behavioral change within organizations. As businesses were hurtling towards a recession, what was happening was that the responsibility for media, often the biggest spend item, if you like, in many organizations, was being removed from marketing and often media leaders and was being given the responsibility of procurement, simply because media was then needing to be managed. It was being looked at as a cost. So as businesses were looking to protect their kind of cost base, they were giving it to those specialists within the organizations that could manage it better, perhaps, rather than investing it as marketeers would do. Now that did two things. The first thing was that it focused the marketplace on cost savings. So procurement leaders were pushing their agencies to drive lower and lower media prices, and we all now experience the kind of the fallout from that. But the second most critical thing that behavior change did was that it focused procurement leaders on reducing agency fees, because they saw that as an opportunity again to recoup money and make savings. Now, squeezing agencies on fees forced the agencies into a different set of behaviors that, again, we've been speaking about for the last 10 years. So, if the indicators of the market are correct and we are venturing into another recessionary global market, it's going to be really interesting to see how the procurement leaders of today, which, as we talked about on the last episode, are far more sophisticated when it comes to understanding and appreciating the nuances of media management than they were 10 years ago, behave and react to the situation.
And since 2008-9, when this was happening, and as you say, I completely agree. I mean, it changed agency behaviour. The pressure on fees fundamentally changed agency behaviour. And had that not happened, I don't think the ANA would ever have been driven to publish their transparency report and those kind of things. So if you go back and look at that, we believe that the roots of all of those kind of issues come from the moments that, David, you're talking about, right? Which is when maybe a less sophisticated procurement community was being put in charge of these media dollars. Very different now. We'll come on to that. It had big implications. When we went into 2015, if you remember, this was called like pitch tsunami and pitch Mageddon and the media apocalypse, I think somebody called it, probably us. The media pitches that were going on right then were still looking for cost efficiency. They were still looking for cost improvements, and most of the big pitches in that year, which were many, many, many big pitches, were looking to consolidate, right? They're reducing the number of agencies that they worked with down from 5 or 6 spread across the world to a single contract, and using that as a powerful lever against agencies to reduce fees and media pricing. That kind of exacerbated it. We've subsequently seen a shift away from pure cost KPIs to other things, and more recently, as we've been talking about a lot this year, focused on growth. But we're just at a kind of, it feels like we're just at the tipping point, right, where things are about to become good, and then news is coming that a recession is coming. So we've got to defend ourselves from that, I suppose, all of us.
So what are the implications?
Well, let's think of the implications in the three kind of cohorts here. You've got the media director, their procurement colleagues, and then the agency. So if you think about the media director, as you mentioned, in 2008 and 9, we saw media directors leaving marketing organizations because those marketing organizations were looking to cut costs. So they cut headcount, and maybe they didn't believe in those days that a media director is the right person or the right team of people to kind of shepherd that large budget through a recessionary economy, and hence that empowered the procurement to do so. So the media director is at risk, genuinely at risk, I think, of a recessionary economy. For those media directors that are not able to defend the spend, you are potentially at risk. And so you've got to think now, if you haven't got a sensible framework for defending media budgets as an investment in growth, then the risk is that control will be taken away from you potentially, right? Depends how drastic a recession could be. But if it's bad, you've got to justify the value that you add to the business. And that means justify the value that you add to the media budget as an investment. So, start thinking a little bit in defense mode and start preparing for that. Related to that is the role then that the procurement will play. The first thing is, as we've just mentioned, is that the procurement role, the media procurement, is much more sophisticated than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were seeing procurement moved from making other commodity buying in organizations and being put in charge of media and regarding it as a commodity naturally. And they brought discipline and diligence to that and rigor to media budgets. But it was a focus on cost and cost reduction. Now, as we've talked a lot, and we're very happy that there's many, many more sophisticated procurement executives in organizations who have an understanding of marketing, appreciate media, can talk about a value equation around media, are becoming very sophisticated in understanding digital techniques, and have been very good at understanding the supply chain particularly. And that's been good. So in those organizations where you've got a very empowered marketing savvy procurement, that's a great thing, because hopefully we won't immediately shift to kind of a cost cutting agenda again, which would be a good thing. But also the media director and procurement leader need to collaborate. You have to find alignment on a framework that can demonstrate value upside, right? And what I mean by that sounds a bit buzzwordy. What I mean by that is keep encouraging the business to view media as an investment. Now, you might reduce budgets, perhaps, if the income of the business, suffers, but we cannot be a race to the bottom on cost. And so both media director and procurement director have to collaborate to make sure that doesn't happen, okay, to maintain the KPIs for media. So that's the internal thing within the marketing organization. As it comes to agencies, the big implication from them is, I guess, the temptation of an agency, particularly those with the big buying groups, will be revert back, get the signs out and stick them on the front of the agency building. It says, come here for cheap media prices or cheap fees. Agencies have got to be good partners to their advertiser clients. They've got to again be starting to, if they're not doing already, have a value equation. What value does the agency add to that budget, right? If you just position yourselves as an ability to cut costs, then that's exactly what people will come to you for. So agencies have got to maintain that narrative as well. I think the big difference for agencies is probably two things. One is that auction-based buying is much more prevalent now than it was in 2009. It was very nascent in 10 years ago. The implication for that is that cutting cost in an auction-based buying world is kind of impossible, right? Because everything is bid upon. So that's one significant change. Agencies have got to defend that. And secondly, a lot of the groups have been investing hugely, billions and billions of dollars in data capabilities. And they're going to need to leverage that, I think, to help their advertiser clients buy media smarter and not cheaper. So all three parts, I think, have a role to play. I think this is a time when you all need to stick together and figure out a plan. And the underlying message has got to be media budgets are an investment in growth, right, or defending share or defending market, they're not a cost to the business that should be cut when times are tough. Right, so I've talked about those three cohorts then. So if we think about the marketer, what should they be doing? What should a media director be doing right now?
They should be working really closely with their procurement counterparts and enabling the same narrative. So the same narrative should be coming from the marketing media teams and the procurement team, that this is about value generation and not cost cutting. That narrative has to be socialized outside of just the procurement teams and the marketing teams, and it has to be listened to by the finance teams. Okay, that's really important within an organization, because often it's finance that make the decision as to who's responsible for media budgets. And if they buy into that positive growth value narrative, then it becomes easier to protect. That's the first thing. The second thing is remember and learn from the mistakes that were made 10 years ago, okay? Over commoditizing the media market has not helped anybody. Squeezing the agencies on fees has not helped anybody. So let's learn from the mistakes of the last 10 years. Let's focus on the sophistication of media as an appreciation now, and keep talking about value generation and media being a critical lever for growth. And you do that, as you rightly say, Tom, by having a really clear framework. So establishing a higher standard of KPI for media and illustrating that as a key driver in business growth. And the other thing is, treat your agency partners as partners. If you go to review because it's the right thing to do, then make sure that there is a strategic imperative within that review, and that the objective of it, if you decide to go to market, is not simply on savings, because that is a fool's gold.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, not to tiptoe around this, media director roles are at risk. If the recession actually gathers momentum, that's the thing. So, really is the time to act. I would add as well, if you need help kind of understanding this kind of stuff, I'm sure we'll be talking about it more. But when we talk about, creating a KPI framework, when we talk about creating a baseline against which you can track value, we don't go into it too deeply in these videos, but do reach out if that's something that you want to discuss. We can help you plan for that if needed. As always, please leave comments down below, subscribe to be updated with new content, but that is your rather gloomy media snack for this week. Thank you very much for watching.
See you next time.